Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk about the role of nonprofit organizations in a society. If we consider a country as a human body, we can see government organizations as the bones of the body and the private sector organizations as the muscles of the body. They are very important for the successful movement of any country, but we also need more than that. And nonprofit organizations behave like veins in our body. They are the ones who really create the impact in our body. They are not as visible and as yeah, they are not as visible as government and profit organizations, but they are very crucial for uh, the sustainable development of any country, not only developing countries but also developed countries. Personally, I'm very much involved with nonprofit organizations. I'm a former Navy captain. I retired as a Navy captain almost 3.5 years ago, and when I moved to Canada with my family, many individuals and nonprofit organizations helped us. And I always wanted to do something in return, and I always wanted to add value to my new community. And the best way was to do it through nonprofit organizations. Because if you help individuals, you can only help one person, but if you help nonprofit organizations, you can help thousands, if not millions, of people. In time, I focused my academic research on nonprofit organizations. I built my network in nonprofit sector, and I tried to gain experience and knowledge, especially in terms of the challenges of nonprofit organizations. I was lucky enough to work with different size organizations mostly in Canada, but also I'm in touch with nonprofit organizations from all around the world, including Bangladesh, Turkey, Nepal, uh, Europe, and United States. So the challenges and their impact in society is very similar. Well, according to research, there are over 10 million nonprofit organizations in all around the world, and only in the United States there are 1.1 million nonprofit organizations operating in totally different domains with totally different causes, but very similar structures and very similar challenges. So, as a researcher and as a resident of Canada, I decided to dedicate my time to develop some scientific solutions for nonprofit organizations. My philosophy was quite simple. I see nonprofit organizations as Formula One cars. Uh, Maybe it's better to say NASCAR cars in your uh, content in USA. And the people who are working in those organizations are the best drivers of the world. But even the best drivers and the best cars, they need to go to pit stop to maintain their performance. So their performance is not sustainable if they get some scientific and external support. So I built my academic research on this philosophy, and I also launched a management consulting company specialized in nonprofit organizations. At first, the reaction was a kind of resistance to change. Nonprofit organizations were quite skeptic when I approached them to provide some scientific solutions, and this is reasonable because it's a human nature to be resistant to change. But when I convinced them that my intention is not to change not to change the car or the driver, but the tires and some small components in the car which affects the performance, they, they were more confident for the progress. So we developed some tools and solutions to ensure their performance and sustainable development. As I said, they offer various kinds of services, and all of them are very important for the society, but at different level. And there's lack of metrics for nonprofit sector. The only criteria which is used in profit domain is dollar value, and this is not really applicable in nonprofit sector. But since there is no other metric, this is the most common metric in nonprofit sector too. So when people make donations, they focus on the percentage of administrative expenses. So if and they expected this to be less than 10 or 15%. So they want to make sure that at minimum 90 cents of every single dollar they donate to an organization will be used for the beneficiaries. But nonprofit organizations, they need money for their own operations too. And charity, even if it is a charity, the financial figures are critical for the survival and growth. So but it's not common in nonprofit sector to talk about money because they have higher level of objectives. I think what really matters in nonprofit sector is their impact. Imagine a charity that helps children in a developing African country, and they help them to survive. I'm talking about fundamental needs like drinking water or food and maybe education. But this is a costly process, especially if you are trying to do it from United States or Canada. So it takes a lot of time and energy and resources to make sure that you can help a child in Africa. So this is costly. So probably minimum 50% of your budget will be consumed for the administrative expenses. Unless you know the results, then it is difficult to say okay to such a donation, because 50% of your dollar will go to administration, whereas the other nonprofit organizations only ask for 10%. So this is a big gap unless you measure the impact, because when people know the impact, they will not care about the dollar value. And I think this is what is missing in nonprofit sector: scientific tools and quantitative solutions. And I'm glad we have this conversation here, because I'm hopeful that students like you will find some alternative metrics that can be used for nonprofit organizations, which will make it easier for them to promote their message, promote their cause, and make them visible to the society. So thank you for listening.